Sir, am I audible now?
Okay, okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay,
Great,
okay,
great.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Okay,
Uh,
so first of all, I would like to thank Bhaktivedanta Research Center and all the participants and my revered teacher, Professor Nirmala Narayan Chakrabarti. So today's my presentations, my topic is meaning and rational reference in philosophy. Though the topic covers huge area, but I mainly focuses on Jitendranath Mohanty's expositions on this issue. Okay, so first of all, Professor Bimal Krishna Motilal, in his text Epistemology, Logic and Grammar in Indian Philosophical Analysis, clarifies that the discussions about Indian philosophy, mainly. Discussions on philosophy of language is predominantly looked as a part of epistemological analysis. Okay, so it claims that understanding a language implies that a listener possesses an epistemic capability and that is responsible for the productions of testimonial knowledge. And in this, following this scenario, if we look at the NA theory of meaning, so we find that in process of listeners' ability to understand the language, there exists an input-output device, and this device helps the hearer to generate a belief as an output from a given input statement. And the instrument that leads to these generations of a particular belief is meaning, or we say the listeners understands of an expression. So according to NAV philosophy, the process by which linguistically derived understanding is drawn called sabdobodha. So in 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 NAV philosophy, there are two ways a word gets its denotative power. Number one is either the will of God or the will of, number two is the will of human being. First one is Shakti, and the, or one can say Iswarecha, and the second one is Paribhasha or modern conventions. Okay, so following these two types of denotative power, the Nobonaya philosophers accept the qualifier and qualificant structure in this context of understanding of meaning of a sentence. So and expressions of the word cow, when we utter the word cow, uh, uh, produce the consciousness of an object like X in the listener's mind, and the object X is qualified by cowness. Okay, so hence one can say the object X is determined by the property of cowness. And in NAV philosophy, cowness or gotta could be termed as the distinguishers or delimiter that, in another word, we can express as Shakkotabotcheda or Abotchedaka dharma, denoted by the word cow. So, in other words, the concept of Abotchedaka plays the role as a delimiter that determines the referent of an expression in a unique way. Okay, so the structure of the meaning complex of the word cow involves three things. Number one, the cow individual, that is Sakya. Number two, the property of cowness, which is the delimiter of the word. And there is another thing that is relations. It's called the relation of inheritance. The three things is crucially important for understanding the meaning of a word. So uh, following this problem, Jitendranath Mohanty gives his significant explanations. Like he argues that when we utter a word like a cow, then we find there the individual object, the structure or form, and a generic property. So, and he claims that uh, that there is a padartho, a word that is called padartho, and a podo, that's mean word. And so what does the mean ortho? In Indian discussions, uh, ortho is the thing that is denoted or referred to by the word. And Mohanty holds that this ortho is very different from Western perspective. And uh, he tries to give a uh, possible solutions that if we introduce uh, the Phrygian notion of sense in Naya theory of meaning, so we can somehow uh, give a possible solutions to this problem. So how this problem? That Here Naya argues that there are four possibilities. The name, that cow refers to a particular cow, or we can say that it denotes a structure or form of a cow, that is cow shape, along with the class character or jati, like cowness. And also one hold that these particular cows as possessing the structure or form as an instantiating the class characters or universals. So when we utter the word cow, then the utterance is also associated with certain linguistic use like bring the cow. This type of sentence, we have to understand that we could only bring an individual or particular animal, not the class character or shaman or universal. So we couldn't bring the class character or universals property like gota. Okay, so uh, here Mohanty uh, faces raises a problem that uh, when there are two cows, that is X and Y, they both have the same form and possesses the same property, and we cannot say that they are identical. In one context, the word cow denote X, and in one context, it denotes Y. So, what will be our possible answer to these questions? Okay, so Mohanty argues that there is no insight in Naya theory of meaning by which we can resolve this problem. And unless we introduce the Frege distinctions between sense and reference. But if we introduce the Frege distinctions in Indian philosophical system, then the correlated distinctions between understanding and meaning will collapse, and consequently the claim that Shabda is an independent mode of knowing or would that's would generate a problem. And in this context, Naya concept of Shakkochayabachchedako dharma, or we can say another way, that is pravitti nimitto, could be seen as a similar of sense reference as introduced by Frege. So according to Mohanty, there are three concepts. Concepts of Shakkochayabachchedako dharma, concept of qualifierhood or prokarata, and the concept of pravritti nimitto. One can say Sakkota Pachchadaka and pravritti nimitta is identical or similar, but Sakkota Pachchadaka, when we say the word Sakkota Pachchadaka, plays always universal class character, but pravritti nimitto not always refer to universal class character. So pravritti nimitto, that can be interpreted in a way that fulfills one of the requirements behind Frege's introductions of the notions of sense, that is the mode of presentation. So if the word cow denotes to cow individuals, then we can say that individual cow is the referent or shakya, which is qualified by the universal property. Okay, so if following these principles, another concept that's mean prokarata, that is unique. The notions of prokarata or qualifierhood present in all cognitive states, and it responds the idea of mode of presentations in this context that can be considered as the knowledge of the reference, and every knowledge cognizes its object a certain particular way. Okay, so in that terminology, it is called that the basis or the use of a word to refer an object and is called pravritti nimitto. So in following this analysis, Mohanty raises some questions like, is the Phrygian structure is applicable to the Nat theory, or can the distinction between sense and reference be sketched within the math theory of meaning like this? So here, following Michael Damert's, Mohanty raises major points like sense can be described as the mode of presentations, since exclusively fixes the references, sense determines the references, that is, the reference can be understood as the function of sense, and sense must be graspable by thought. But the Mohanty try to show that whether or not any of these aspects, that Phrygian notion of sense is consistent with the Nat theory of meaning. So Mohanty argues that number one, that is what we already say, the sense can be described as the mode of presentations, is concept of prokarata and pravritti nimitto. So the concept of sakkata pachchadaka dharma being the property of the referent of an individual word, and is thus essential property by virtue of which individual belonging to a class nominated by the term. Okay, so here Mohanty refers Bardhamana's definitions regarding pravritti nimitto. Bardhamana Upadhyay says in his Bhutpatipada Bacchatte Soti, Baccho Vrittitte Soti, Bacchopostiti Prokarattam. Okay, that's meaning that something is to be considered as pravritti nimitta of a word if it comprises a component of the meaning complex and it becomes qualifier in the context of appearance as a referent. So looking towards cowness, for example, Mohanty claims that the referent of the individual cow is not just the bare individual, rather the individual associated with the class character. The universal by virtue of the individual can be called as cow, and so cowness could be seen as another element in the referent. And regarding this, Mohanty uh, uh, tries to show that one thing we have to keep in our mind, that X could be seen as Y, although the property of being Y does not reside in X. And hence Mohanty argues that in Nat theory of meaning, the notion of sense could be seen as a mode of presentations, though it cannot be dissociated from the property of the referent. So sense could turn out to be identified with the notion of reference, and there is very hard to distinguish between the sense, the notion of sense and reference in the Nat theory of meaning. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.